All right, it is 3 o'clock. So we'll officially call the October 7th pre-planning commission meeting to order. It's like the first thing on the agenda is 2 continuances. Gabrielle, do you want to walk us through those?
Sure. Unfortunately, there was a mix-up at the Frederick News Post, and the news ad that was supposed to be placed at least 14 days in advance of the meeting did not make it in advance of the 14 days. It got placed in the paper on the 15th. The fortunate thing is those were the only 2 items that we had coming up for this meeting on Monday that actually had to be advertised. All of the previous cases are the second of 2, and those don't have to be reposted in the newspaper after we've had the first hearing. So the text amendment from last month's workshop and 550 Highland, which was on the workshop previous to that, those both were brand new items. This would have been the first time they were being considered. So the news ad wasn't in time. So they will repeat the news ad in advance of the November meeting. So kind of a forced continuance, unfortunately, but
okay,
it is what it is.
Any questions, Ron? Any questions? Dorothy? No? Okay. I was going to ask you something and then I forgot, so it doesn't matter. So then we have basically 3 items. I had to make notes because I can't be seen and then go look at the electronic stuff at the same time. So we've got the Grove Hill, the Madison on Market zoning map amendment and the master plan. And then there's one other thing on the agenda for today, right?
Yeah, the 4th one is a Dearborn assault
right
thing. That's the master plan.
All right, so let's start with Grove Hill. Whose is that you too, Gabrielle?
That is me. So I'm gonna also, I'm looking at one screen, looking at the other. So this is the second of 2 meetings. This was continued several times, so it's been a little bit of a gap since we last talked about it. As part of the plan, you'll be looking at several different modifications. There's the modification for the lots themselves to create the building envelope, the setbacks, the impervious surface ratio for the townhouse lots. There's a modification for the requirement for a 10-foot street setback between parking and the street right-of-way, and that's to allow perpendicular style parking like you see in kind of a traditional townhouse neighborhood where you don't have garages. You have, let's see, going between multiple screens. You have the modification to the street improvement standards for local streets. And this is where you're going to see the biggest update since we last talked. The street sections had the most outstanding staff comments about how those different roadways would be designed. And really the pinch points that we're looking at is the section of right-of-way between where the state highway right-of-way ends on Route 40 through the existing section of Grove Hill Road, which is currently a county road, to the property line. There's only so much right-of-way there that the applicant doesn't control. So there are some sections where the sidewalk narrows down to 4 feet and the right-of-way narrows. And then on the other side of the project, where the applicant has constrained right-of-way as well, before it ties into Huntsman, there are some modifications to that section of roadway as well. The important part that staff really wanted to see updated was to have sidewalks on both sides of the street. The submission you saw in June only had sidewalk on one section of one side of the road outside of the property. So in those 2 sections of right-of-way leading into the property, they really only had sidewalk on one side. So we've achieved sidewalk on both sides. It does come with some concessions. Like I said, you have to narrow it 4 feet to a little over 4 feet in a couple locations. So that is where you see the biggest updates since the last hearing. Then we have, after the modification for the street standards, there's the modification to the requirement that the driveways don't occupy more than 30% of the required front yard of the actual front yard of the townhouse lots. We talked about this modification before. Once you start squeezing in the lots and making them narrower, that driveway obviously starts to occupy more of the yard because the driveway has to stay the same size to park a car. So it's exceeding that. And then those are the modifications. There are a couple of conditions of approval. They're minor ones with some technical comments, number 1 and number 2. And then the applicant does have to execute an MPDU payment agreement before the master plan can be approved. So that's kind of the basics of what we're seeing.
All right, let's go for questions. Commissioner Beatty.
Are there any, do we get updated packets for these things, or are we still going on the ones that we got basically a month ago? Updated to reflect some of the changes that you're talking about.
Everything online has been updated. If you got paper copies, you should have also gotten an updated master plan and design booklet.
I don't know that I did. That's
Okay,
why
did you?
I'm asking, because I looked all over for it today.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing it. Which email would that have been from?
The materials online are the most up to date.
Okay. I'll go back. I couldn't find. I looked at it on the meeting schedule, and at the bottom of it, it says more info, and I clicked on that, and there wasn't anything. So I've been struggling with that whole interface thing. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, I can send you an email too with I'll make sure you got all of everything. I can send you an email with the link and probably even a PDF of the whole packet if it'll send, if it's small enough.
Okay, thank you. Or
yeah.
just and I'll do some work. The only other question I had is, has there been any other public comment received?
We have not received any other public comment.
That's surprising.
Yeah, and I think there were folks present at last month's meeting who showed up and left after the continuance. Yeah, a lot of the issues that were talked about at the original meeting, dealing with stormwater and setbacks and landscaping and those sorts of things. A lot of that is a function of subsequent stages of the development. So right. there are some things that still have to wait, but we haven't received any other additional written comment or anything.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Manellis.
No questions, thank you.
Right, and I have no questions either. But if the new master plan and design booklet was not included in the material online, could you send me the PDF of that as well?
Yeah, we'll make sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no other questions, then let's move on to the Madison on Market. Who is that?
That's
Okay.
That's me.
Right.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself here. Okay, so since the first hearing, we tried to include in the staff report some of the clarification that you wanted for the peak hours. I'm hoping that it lets you know what's going on there if you have any questions. And then we went to the parking and the bike lane. You had a question about the bike lane, and I think we just explained that a little bit at the hearing, that those connections to with the bike lane improvements and everything that goes forward down in the future to 26 is done when the development comes in. And so that's what we look for, developers to fill those gaps as projects come online. And then we have for the forest conservation and landscaping, the landscaping, I've just made comment, and I just for advisement to the applicant, really, that they have this mature tree line, that's on the, on the south side of the property along the path area there, that we would like to see if it's healthy enough and everything to retain, instead of having, like I said in the report, to grade it to the property line and then have to replant. So that was just kind of advisement there. And then just to let you know that they did receive their provisional school certificate to pay mitigation fee, which they're probably looking at a $0 because this is affordable housing through the low income. And we are recommending, like I said, positive for the for the zoning and the 2 modifications and the master plan itself. So that's pretty much what we've gone through.
All right. Commissioner Manellis, any questions?
No questions for me, thank you.
Great, thanks. Commissioner Beatty?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, and so I just want to clarify, you kind of did a quick run through on both the zoning map amendment and the master plan, right?
Yes, this is, through the same report and giving you what the criteria is.
Gotcha. Okay, I have no questions. There's nothing else, then we can move on to the last item. And that would be Deerbot.
That's mine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Back to the Madison on North Market. Just one thing I noticed, and I think it was a question that you had, Joan, about the starting and stopping of bike lanes, etc.
Mm-hmm.
When I was driving by the other day, I was looking at it, and even though it's not it's not specified as a bike lane, there is basically a wide shoulder there that could so it's not going to be a abrupt stop right after it. Just a point of reference that I saw.
Cool.
Okay.
Yes, I would say that's true because I travel that area quite often myself, and you see bicyclers using that even now. They're already using that wide buffer area there. So, yes, thank you, Ron.
Sure.
Great. Okay, anything else?
Not for me, thanks.
All right, great. Jerry, it's all yours.
Okay, so just a couple of updates from the first hearing. During that hearing, there were questions raised about the scale of the building and the institutional district's density requirements. And so since the IST district doesn't have any bulk standards, it allows for greater flexibility for buildings compared to other zoning districts, your Euclidean zoning districts. So, but however, the overall P&D dictates what the density will be, and for the proposed senior living facility, it'll be 2.9 acres units per acre. So that's below the P&D density, which was 8. And that is it for that one. And then the public's raised questions or concerns about speeding through the neighborhood. And the applicant said that they, were working with or they'll work with trying to do maybe some traffic calming measures but they did have some information that the speed limit, actual speed limit along Wayfield there is about 23 to 24 miles an hour, and the speed limit is 25. So, and then there was an issue raised with regard to the walkability, and the applicant had stated that there were proposed sidewalks to the site that will tie into existing sidewalks so that people can connect to that shopping center that's across 26, and it will eliminate people from walking along 26. So, and then lastly, with regard to stormwater management, the applicant had discussed that there will be ESD facilities on site that will help with the stormwater, and as well there's a regional facility there that kind of serves that P&D. So those should be adequate to control the stormwater. And I think that's it. Just a couple of conditions, very minor. They just need to correct the stormwater narrative on page 1 of the stormwater narrative. On sheet 1 of the plan, they have to correct the note on the APFO approvals. It just needs to be updated that the provisional or final certificates have been issued in the issuance date for each one. And then lastly, they just need to add the note referencing the 4-stand delineation. So that's all.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Beatty, any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Manellis?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, and I have no questions. So that's everything that's officially on the agenda. Is there anything else, Gabrielle, that we need to talk about, bring up, prepare for Monday?
No, I think just one note on Madison. We will have to make two separate actions with the rezoning and the master
Right.
plan. So even that, though it's one report, that is kind of two separate items that we'll vote on. But otherwise, I think we're good to go. We should do want to know we may be a little late getting our workshop packets out. They may be ready on Tuesday for you and posted online. Today was our city picnic, so it took up some chunk of time. Yeah. So we'll be making up a little later on Monday than maybe normal. So we might be a little bit late, but we'll let you know.
All right, sounds good. Right, well, if there's nothing else, then this meeting is adjourned, and we'll see you all on Monday.
All right.
Have a good weekend, all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.